Hey everyone, welcome back to the News Pulse, your go-to source for in-depth economic analysis and global trade insights. Today, we're diving into a hot topic shaking up the global economy: Trump's tariffs on India. President Donald Trump recently announced a 25% tariff on Indian imports, plus an additional penalty tied to India's trade with Russia. This is a game-changer for India's economy, its exporters, and its strategic ties with the US. So, what does this mean for India's GDP, its trade surplus, and its role in global alliances like BRICS and the Quad? Stick around as we break it all down in this deep dive, packed with insights, data, and expert opinions. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. Are you ready? Let's get started. First, let's set the stage. On July 30th, 2025, President Trump announced a 25% tariff on all Indian goods entering the US, effective August 1st, along with an unspecified penalty targeting India's defense and energy trade with Russia. This move is part of Trump's broader trade war strategy, which aims to reduce U.S. trade deficits and protect American industries. The U.S. had a $45.8 billion trade deficit with India in 2023 to 24, and Trump has repeatedly called India the tariff king for its high import duties, which averaged 12% compared to the U.S. quote, S 2.2%. But why India? And why now? Trump's tariffs aren't just about economics, they're also geopolitical. India's continued purchase of Russian oil and weapons, especially amid the Russia-Ukraine conflict, has drawn U.S. scrutiny. Trump's Truth Social post criticized India for taking their dead economies down together with Russia, signaling that these tariffs are as much about foreign policy as they are about trade. This follows a pattern from Trump's first term, where he used tariffs on steel, aluminum, and Chinese goods to reshape global trade dynamics. But this time, the stakes are higher, with India facing a potential $2 billion to $7 billion drop in annual export earnings. For context, India's exports to the U.S. were valued at $77.5 billion in 2023 to 24, making the U.S. its largest export market. Key sectors like textiles, pharmaceuticals, auto components, and jewelry are now in the firing line. Let's explore how these tariffs could ripple through India's economy and beyond. Alright, let's talk numbers. How will these tariffs hit India's economy? According to economic experts, the 25% tariff could lead to a sharp decline in demand for Indian goods in the U.S., potentially costing India $2 billion to $7 billion in export revenue annually. That's a significant blow for sectors like textiles, pharmaceuticals, and auto components, which rely heavily on the U.S. market. Take textiles, for example. Places like Surat in India, known as the knitwear capital, could see orders dry up as U.S. buyers face higher costs. The same goes for auto component manufacturers supplying Detroit. Analysts at Nomura estimate that India's GDP could take a 0.2% hit, while ICRA has downgraded its GDP growth forecast from 6.5% to 6.2% for this financial year. That might not sound like much, but for a country aiming for broad-based recovery, every fraction counts. Aditi Nayar, chief economist at ICRA, said, "The tariff and penalty proposed by the U.S. are higher than anticipated and will pose a headwind to India's GDP growth. This isn't just about lost exports, it's about jobs, small businesses, and the Indian rupee." Analysts warn the rupee could weaken to 90 against the dollar if trade tensions escalate, driving up import costs and inflation. That means higher prices for everyday goods like mobile phones, laptops, and jewelry. But it's not all doom and gloom. India's economy is more domestically oriented than other Asian peers like Vietnam or Bangladesh, which rely heavily on exports. This resilience could cushion the blow. Plus, Indian startups are adapting. A recent study noted that government initiatives like the Production-Linked Incentive, PLI scheme, and Atmanirbhar Bharat are helping startups localize production, reducing reliance on tariff-sensitive imports. Still, small and medium enterprises, SMEs, and family-run export houses could face cash flow issues as they renegotiate prices with U.S. buyers. Another wrinkle? The tariffs could push India's central bank to cut interest rates to protect growth. Nomura suggests this could lead to deeper monetary policy easing, which might stimulate domestic consumption but risks further rupee depreciation. It's a delicate balancing act for India's policymakers. Let's zoom in on the sectors feeling the heat. The auto industry is a big one. Indian auto component manufacturers who supply major U.S. dealerships are facing immediate margin pressures, Stocks in this sector saw early selling after the tariff announcement, and analysts warn that companies without diversified markets could struggle. Similarly, the textile industry, from Surat's diamond polishing hubs to Tirupur's garment lines, is bracing for reduced U.S. orders and increased competition from countries like Bangladesh, which secured a lower 20% tariff rate. Pharmaceuticals, however, might dodge the bullet. Experts say this sector is largely exempt from the new tariffs, giving it a rare edge. But IT services, a cornerstone of India's economy, aren't entirely safe. While not directly hit by tariffs, weak U.S. economic indicators and cautious corporate spending could tighten deal pipelines for Indian IT giants. As Mayank Jain from Share.Market put it, IT majors with substantial U.S. revenues may underperform. Then there's the ripple effect on consumers. Higher tariffs mean pricier Indian goods in the U.S., which could reduce demand and force exporters to absorb some costs. This squeezes profit margins and could lead to layoffs in export-heavy industries. On the flip side, some analysts suggest investors pivot to domestic-focused sectors like banking, telecom, and infrastructure, which are less exposed to U.S. tariffs. It's a classic case of winners and losers in a trade war. Now let's shift gears to the strategic side. These tariffs aren't just about trade. They're a geopolitical chess move. Trump's additional penalty on India for its Russia ties, particularly oil and arms purchases, signals a broader U.S. push to align India with its foreign policy goals, especially regarding the Russia-Ukraine war. India, however, has defended its enemy, citizens. This puts India in a tricky spot. The U.S. is a key partner in the Quad, a strategic alliance with India, Japan, and Australia aimed at countering China. But India's role in BRICS, alongside Russia and China, is equally important for its global ambitions. Trump's tariffs could strain India-US relations, potentially weakening the Quad while pushing India closer to BRICS. As one ex-post put it, Trump's tariffs strain Quad ties but push India deeper into BRICS. Former JNU professor Arun Kumar argues that Trump's strategy reflects broader geopolitical ambitions, not just economic ones. By pressuring India to reduce its Russia trade, the U.S. is testing India's strategic autonomy. Meanwhile, India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has pushed back, calling Trump's dead economy remark irresponsible. India's firm stance shows it's not backing down easily, especially with domestic politics at play. Any sign of caving to U.S. pressure could be political suicide for the Modi government. Negotiations are ongoing, with a U.S. trade delegation expected in India on August 25th. The goal? A comprehensive trade deal by fall 2025. Analysts at Nomura suggest tariffs could settle at 15 to 20% if a deal is reached, but the penalty on Russia trade complicates things. India's already made concessions, like cutting tariffs on U.S. whiskey and motorcycles, but Trump's unpredictable style makes outcomes uncertain. India's not alone in facing Trump's tariff wrath. The EU, Canada, Mexico, and China are also targets, with tariffs ranging from 10% to 50%. Japan, for instance, secured a 15% tariff rate, while Vietnam got 20%. India's 25% rate is among the highest in Asia, which could put it at a competitive disadvantage. Multinational companies like Apple, which are ramping up production in India, might rethink their strategies if India's exports become pricier than Vietnam's. The global fallout is already visible. The IMF and OECD have downgraded 2025 growth forecasts, citing Trump's tariffs as a drag on global trade. In the U.S., economists warn of rising inflation as companies pass on tariff costs to consumers. A J.P. Morgan report estimates that a 17% effective tariff rate could add 0.2-0.3% to U.S. inflation. For India, the challenge is staying competitive while navigating a trade war that's reshaping global supply chains. Interestingly, Trump's tariffs have sparked mixed reactions. Some U.S. industries like manufacturing might benefit from reduced foreign competition, but consumers could face higher prices for everything from clothing to electronics. In India, the focus is shifting inward, with investors eyeing domestic sectors less exposed to global trade shocks. It's a pivotal moment for India to double down on self-reliance. So, what's India's next move? First, it's doubling down on trade talks. The August 25th meeting with the U.S. delegation is critical, and India's negotiators will likely push for lower tariffs while offering concessions like increased U.S. energy imports. Second, India's leveraging its domestic market and initiatives like PLI to bolster local production. This could help offset export losses and attract FDI, especially as companies diversify away from China. Long-term, India's balancing act between the US, Russia, and BRICS will define its global role. A successful trade deal could strengthen India-US ties and boost bilateral trade to $500 billion by 2030. But if talks fail, India might lean harder into BRICS, potentially reshaping its foreign policy. For now, exporters are bracing for volatility, while investors are advised to focus on domestic growth themes like infrastructure and financials. One thing's clear: Trump's tariffs are a wake-up call for India to diversify its markets, strengthen its domestic economy, and navigate geopolitical pressures with finesse. The road ahead is bumpy, but India's resilience and strategic positioning could turn this challenge into an opportunity. And there you have it. A comprehensive look at the economic and strategic impact of Trump's tariffs on India. From GDP hits to sector-specific challenges and geopolitical maneuvering, this trade war is reshaping India's place in the global economy. What do you think? Will India strike a deal with the US, or will it pivot toward BRICS? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. If you found this analysis helpful, give us a like, subscribe, and share this video with anyone interested in global trade and economics. Check out our other videos on the trade war and India's economy in the playlist linked below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.